Good afternoon and welcome to the Grand Rapids Community College Board of Trustees meeting for Monday, August 17th, 2026. Do any board members or President Rogalski have guests in the audience that you would like to introduce? All right, not seeing anyone jump at that. I'll jump to our first order of business. Our first order of business today is the approval of the agenda. Trustees, please note that this is the time to remove an item from the consent agenda for separate consideration if necessary.
Yes, I would like to remove the 2627 blanket purchase order. I have just a point of clarification.
Okay.
Second.
Sounds good. And would we like to go into the clarification now? All right, so if you don't mind, Trustee Siegel, we can ask the question.
Only clarification, not criticism of any sort. There are 4 items on the July 1st, 26th through June 30th, going backwards, 2027, listed for the library, and I would just like clarification on the difference between what is it, the library catalog records directly into ours versus database through EBSO. I know it's needed. What is all this library? There are 4 different entries. Could someone clarify that for me?
So I would welcome John Globoker to come and give a clarification based on the finance report, as well as Dr. Sheila Jones in support of being over the library.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Great question, Trustee Siegel. As you did point out, they are very unique and provide different services to the library and those that need access to various materials. The best way that I can characterize each of those in a different manner, and Sheila and I can tag team those. The Libris system is basically a centralized database of electronic and digital materials, kind of brings all the materials together. So it's a software application for that purpose. Whereas ProQuest provides access digitally to more of your arts materials, film, music, of that sort. EBSCO provides published materials, research materials, journal access, and then Gobi, if I pronounce that correctly, is also another system for cataloging, and I was gathering some information on intel on that, but Sheila, if you went.
Yeah, I would just add to what John mentioned that I would look at the first of the 4 and the last of the 4 as tools that help us make our materials available out, if that makes sense. And ProQuest and EBSCO are allowing us to bring resources into students that they can access. So EBSCO would be your host for research journals, so things that are published, and students can then log into our library and they'd have access to published journal articles.
Are the EBSCO therefore also software, not hard copies?
Yes, they could be for online journals, so students could access something published elsewhere right through that and download it electronically. It's so cool. As a researcher, I've used it a lot. And, yeah, thanks. And ProQuest would be similar, not overlapping in content, but ProQuest would enable our students to access documentaries, video content, things like that. Not published articles and research, but could help them with their research.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Thank you for your consideration of those purchase orders.
Thank you both. Going back to the approval of the agenda, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections of the agenda? May I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
So move.
May I have
Support.
and we have a second. Is there any discussion? Please note that any discussion should be directly related to an individual trustee's support or opposition of the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Now we will open the meeting up for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the board, you may do so at this time. Please note that at this time, that this is the time that the board will hear comments specifically related to today's board agenda. There will be an additional open comment later in the meeting that allows for public comment on any matter. Please come to the podium and state your name. I remind you that all comments are limited to 3 minutes, and the board will not respond to your comments at this time. I see no one coming up, so at this point, we'll move forward. Now, this is the time that we will move to approve the consent items. May I have a motion to approve the consent items as presented?
So moved.
Support. And I hear a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Now on to an action item for purchases over 100,000. May I have a motion to approve the purchases over 100,000 as presented? May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And now on to the president's report.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a couple months since we've had a board meeting, and so I have a little bit of a longer report today. Some great things that I want to share with you about work that's been happening across the college. But I would first like to say that we've been really busy, particularly in the past couple weeks, ramping up for our opening day, where we're welcoming faculty and staff back on Thursday, August 20th. So we're excited, and I'm particularly excited. It will be my first opening day, and there's always a wonderful energy when the faculty and staff come back after summer. So looking forward to that, and we'll have our students back on August 24th. For our fall enrollment, we set an enrollment goal of 12,830 students, which is approximately 3% growth from fall 2025. As of this morning, our head count is about the same as it was last year at this time, while our in-district billing units are up nearly 4%. So what this means is that students are enrolling in more contact hours, and we know that that's always a good thing when students are enrolling in more, knowing that many of our students, majority, are part-time. We're currently seeing upward trends as compared to last year in online courses, in our enrollment from our 25 to 29-year-olds, as well as our 18 to 20-year-olds and full-time enrollment. In Lakeshore, at our Lakeshore campus, specifically looking at the enrollment goal for Lakeshore was set at 1,100 students, and we're trending upward. Currently, Lakeshore campus enrollment is averaging 5% above where we were last year at the same point. Right now, we are offering over 100 courses this fall, being taught by over 50 different faculty members. So kudos to the work that everyone's doing on our enrollment at all of our campuses. One of the things that we wanted to celebrate was that we were recently recognized by the Michigan Department of Lifelong Education and Advancement and Potential, otherwise known as MyLeap. They recognized GRCC for the growth that we've seen in our Credit for Prior Learning program and working with the Improving Economic Mobility for Adult Learners project. Over last year, GRCC has had considerable growth in our Credit for Prior Learning, including a 121% increase in the number of Reconnect students being awarded Credit for Prior Learning, averaging 367 more credits being awarded this year, last year than the prior year. So that was an excellent improvement, knowing how much that means for those Reconnect students, to see that we are valuing the work that they've done and awarding them that credit for prior learning. We're also offering 2 new Spanish language certificate programs in partnership with West Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. They will launch this academic year. The School of STEM will offer the Artificial Intelligence Practitioner's Certificate starting in fall of 2026, and the School of Liberal Arts will offer the Fast Track Child Development Associate Formal Training Hours Certificate starting in the winter of 27. Also, a big shout out to our financial aid team. Well, financial aid awarding for the 26-27 academic year was initially delayed due to the FAFSA related changes. Our financial aid team worked diligently, collaborating with teams around the college to support students. And as of July 29th, GRCC's first fall 2026 semester tuition due date, the financial aid office was able to achieve over an 11% increase in the number of students awarded financial aid as compared with the same time last year. That team has worked tirelessly and really appreciates all the kudos that we can give them throughout that work. We also wanted to celebrate our athletic teams who this year the NJCAA National Junior College Athletic Association announced its all academic teams, recognizing student athletes across the country for their dedication in the classroom. This year included GRCC's baseball, women's basketball, men's and women's cross country, women's soccer, and volleyball teams. Additionally, 6 GRCC students had 4.0 GPAs and were named to the NJCAA's All Academic First Team. We had 20 students who had GPAs ranging from 3.8 to 3.99 who were named to the All Academic Second Team, 13 students who had GPAs ranging from 3.6 to 3.79 and were named to the All Academic Third Team. So kudos to all of our student athletes and the work that all the teams do to support them. Then we had, over the summer, Bridges to College Raider Ready Summer Program. The Bridges to College Raider Ready program is a college readiness initiative designed to support traditional age students as they transition from high school to Grand Rapids Community College. Through a comprehensive 9-week summer experience, the program helps students to build academic confidence, college knowledge, and a sense of belonging that are essential for long-term success. This is the second year the program was funded through GRCC, and we've had a total of 44 students participate in the program at both Lakeshore and the Grand Rapids campuses during the summer, which was an increase from 25 students who participated last summer. So great work, always important to make sure that those students coming to us from high school feel like they know what's happening right the day that they get onto campus for fall classes. Our college advancement, you hopefully have all received an invitation to ScholarFest. ScholarFest is a event where we are celebrating the spirit of philanthropy and highlighting the achievements of faculty, staff, and students. The event shines a spotlight on inspiring student journeys, illustrating how scholarships have shaped and supported their academic success. That will be on Wednesday, September 16th at 6 p.m. in the Secchia Piazza. That same week, we have homecoming, and the Alumni Relations team is collaborating with other campus departments to plan Homecoming 2026. The activities will take place the week of September 14th, and they'll include tailgating, games for men's soccer, women's soccer, and volleyball. So we have a website dedicated for homecoming events. We hope that you check that out. And then if you're hearing a theme in that week of September 14th, between Homecoming, ScholarFest, it will also be the Presidential Investiture Week. And so I am sure that you've all received your invitations for the September 18th Investiture Ceremony that will be at 3 p.m. at the Fountain Street Church. So looking forward to seeing everyone there. And then finally, just some great news on scholarship impact that we've had for our students in the 2025-26 academic year. The GRCC Foundation awarded more than $1.4 million in scholarships to over 1,500 students. We are currently in the process of awarding scholarships for the 2026-27 academic year and are on track again to award approximately $1.4 million. Special recognition to that team and all the work that they've been doing to award these funds. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite up Dr. Sheila Jones, Executive Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs, and Erin Van Egmond, Vice President of College Advancement and Executive Director of the GRCC Foundation, to talk to us about student funding sources.
Great, thank you. Well, good afternoon, trustees, President Rogalski, and Amy. Today, Dr. Jones and I would like to provide a very high-level overview of the different funding sources students have available to them and share some examples of how this all works for our students. But we'll start with what our goals are for today, and really that is what are the funding sources available to GRCC students, and today we're really focusing on a few examples within 4 main sources. We'll provide examples of how these sources compare, how it differs for students, and what gaps remain. And then also, how can we support our community with this information? So I'm going to start with providing the types of funding and how to access them, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Jones to provide a bit more detailed overview as well as provide some examples. So the 4 main sources of funding for students are federal, state, local, and institutional dollars. And we have some examples of those here. So federal aid, like the Pell Grant, this is how need-based aid is determined using the FAFSA, or the free application for federal student aid. For state, and for this presentation, we're specifically focusing on 2 programs through the state, and that is the Reconnect and the Community College Guarantee. Local, and again for this presentation, we are going to focus today on the Promise Zone, and that's for graduates of Grand Rapids High Schools. And then, of course, institutionally, our GRCC Foundation scholarships. So how do students access this funding? So to start, the best place to start is applying to GRCC. We need to know that students have an intent to enroll at GRCC. We always encourage students to fill out the FAFSA, and that not only determines their federal aid eligibility, but is often used to determine eligibility for other aid as well. We encourage all incoming students to also fill out a GRCC Foundation scholarship application. And one thing to note here is you are not required to fill out a FAFSA in order to fill out a scholarship application. So that's something that we help students with. And how does a student kind of become eligible or know that they're eligible? So those, what I listed on the slide before is how they access it, some general applications. But of course, there's other eligibility that we need to determine, and this kind of walks through some of that. So once we know the intent to enroll by completing that application, and once we've received their FAFSA, that really activates some of the awarding for our students, even some of the state funding. For Reconnect, though, there is one additional application through the state that students who are 21 or older do have to fill out in order to be eligible for that. For Promise Zone, that eligibility is really determined by the student's residency and their high school attendance records. And again, we encourage all students to fill out a foundation scholarship application. And they fill out one application, and that considers them for over 300 different scholarship funds. And of course, they've already been mentioned before, but our amazing financial aid office manages all the awarding for federal and state programs, but they communicate and collaborate with the other different agencies and departments on campus to ensure students receive the aid they're eligible for. So again, that was a really broad overview of the funding sources and access to them. But before I turn it over to Dr. Jones to walk through some eligibility and specific examples, we thought it would also be helpful to share what outreach occurs to let students know about these aid opportunities. And that really starts with marketing and communications. Certainly our internal marketing and communications team does a multi-pronged approach through multiple different channels, including email, website, social media. But then also Promise Zone, as you probably are aware, they have their own board, and that board works with an external agency, but in close collaboration with our marketing and communications department to ensure brand and messaging alignment. And then, of course, the state of Michigan actively promotes the community college guarantee and reconnect. And now we'll turn it over to Dr. Jones.
Thank you, Erin. Hello again. And in addition to these awareness campaigns, there are several other efforts to support student and community understanding of these programs. We work closely with our K-12 partners. That involves holding FAFSA workshops, providing handouts, and support completing the GRCC application. Our Promise Zone Success Coordinators also meet with eligible students in the high schools. Our admissions, enrollment, and financial aid teams help students understand these programs and coach them through the application processes. This also includes our experts with federal and state level programs to reach underserved and/or adult students. I mean by that, our TRIO Educational Opportunity Center office, as well as our Reconnect Community Action Grant and Adult Recruitment and Community Outreach team. Several student support areas, including staff who work with veteran students and honor students, as well as advisors and classroom faculty, have working knowledge of the experts on campus and helps connect students to those departments. We also engage with our community partners, including the Hispanic Center of West Michigan and area chambers of commerce, as well as other agencies who regularly connect with our teams to ensure parents, families, and the community are informed about these funding opportunities. And it really is a team effort to ensure students' needs are met as much as we can. There we go, thank you. What I wanted to do in the next couple slides is break down two of the most prominent state programs, the Community College Guarantee and Michigan Reconnect, illustrating who qualifies for each and what the funding pays for. First is the Community College Guarantee, or CCG for short. This supports recent high school graduates who are required to attend full-time, which is at least 12 credit hours. CCG covers in-district tuition and mandatory fees. It is a last dollar award, meaning funding is applied after other tuition-directed aid. Note here, though, what you see in italics on that top row, Pell-eligible students also receive an extra $1,000 per year for additional college expenses. Michigan Reconnect supports students aged 21 and over who have been a state resident for at least 1 year and have earned a high school diploma or equivalent, yet do not have an associate or bachelor's degree. Reconnect covers tuition and mandatory fees and is also last dollar. Moving to our local and GRCC programs. This again states who qualifies and what the programs pay for. The Grand Rapids Promise Zone supports students who lived in and attended, then graduated from an eligible high school within the city of Grand Rapids from the start of 11th grade through graduation. Promise Zone covers tuition and mandatory fees. It also provides a GRCC bookstore allocation, and students receive Raider card funds to use for parking and campus dining options when enrolled in fall and/or winter. As many of you are likely aware, there is also additional funding for associate degree graduates who transfer to Ferris State or GVSU to complete a bachelor's degree. Next, again, is the GRCC Foundation Scholarships, which you just heard about. These support any incoming or current GRCC student. Full and part-time students are eligible. And again, one application matches students to over 300 scholarship opportunities. The amounts vary. They can cover tuition, fees, and other educational expenses. We've provided you with a lot of information, and now we're going to illustrate a breakdown of this matrix of funding to illustrate how students can utilize multiple sources of funding at once. In other words, how do these stack up? So we'll show two examples, a recent high school graduate and a second example of an adult student based on this fall semester. So details at the top of this first slide give you the student snapshot. Again, this is a recent high school graduate who is Pell eligible, Grand Rapids Promise Zone qualified, and enrolled at GRCC full-time, which we've converted that to saying 12 contact hours as required by the Community College Guarantee. We've based this on student in a transfer program, such as an Associate of Arts program that would move into a bachelor's degree. And this again is based on fall 2026 tuition and fees. So that would work out to be an approximate cost of $1,772 for the semester. Just see how this would look to the student. So the next bullet points go into, once they've completed the FAFSA and foundation scholarship applications, that opens their access to the federal program, meaning Pell, the state program, here in this case, the Community College Guarantee, our local with the Promise Zone, and then any institutional scholarship funding from the foundation. How we put this on the slide, covered means it's likely that there wouldn't be a balance for those students. Supported means that there could still be cost after those programs and after those opportunities are applied. So for instance, tuition and fees, that would be covered. Pell pays first, then Promise Zone, and then the Community College Guarantee, covering again in-district tuition, mandatory fees, and 12 or more contact hours of classes. The books and campus costs are supported through the Promise Zone bookstore allocation and the Radar Card funds. The additional living expenses would be supported. Pell is not tuition restricted, therefore the grant supports living expenses, plus the Community College Guarantee of $500 a semester. So that would be that boost for Pell eligible students in this example. Any remaining needs would be supported through the foundation scholarships. In our second example of the adult learner, this again, at the top you see the profile here would be a student who's age 32, a Michigan resident in district or living in district. They have no prior degree. They would be Pell and Reconnect eligible. We wanted you to think about a type of student here would also be working while maintaining their college enrollment. So we added they're a working student enrolled part-time at GRCC with 6 contact hours in a career program. So think of this student as enrolled in one of our Associate of Applied Arts and Sciences programs that would go right into the workforce, such as our HVAC program. Again, basing this on fall 2026 tuition and mandatory fees, this would be an approximate figure of $910 for their semester. And similar with the previous slide, again, the FAFSA and foundation scholarship applications are what really opens the access to the federal, state, and in this case, institutional programs. And following this, again, the additional educational expenses, once Pell and or Reconnect pays 100% of their in-district tuition and mandatory fees. Pell can also support non-tuition costs, but may not cover all expenses. Wanted you to note, and what we've italicized there is no adult learner equivalent of the living expense boost from the Community College Guarantee. Any remaining needs here would be supported, and again, where the foundation scholarships come in. We mentioned that there are over 300 scholarships, 190 of them prorate by enrollment intensity, which is a fancy way of saying they're available to both part-time and full-time students. So the amount awarded would be based on their contact hour enrollment with us. With all of that, there are still funding gaps. What you see on this slide illustrate that with all of these programs, funding gaps remain. They remain when programs require full-time enrollment, and by program here, I don't mean their enrollment in a degree program, I mean when the state funding program. State as an example, when those programs require full-time enrollment. If students don't take advantage of the CCG within the window of eligibility, there could be a gap between CCG coverage and Reconnect. When students have needs beyond tuition and fees, and then when students live out of district, and then when the FAFSA is required for programs, as not every student can complete the FAFSA. All that's to say, I think 2 big takeaways for this. We're grateful that these opportunities exist, yet free college does not mean that there is no cost to attend college. All of our students' needs are unique, and there are a lot of costs factoring into their decisions to attend GRCC. What you see on the slide here, as well as their time or their opportunity cost in terms of working or attending school. Since every student's situation is different, it is really important that we encourage them to apply as soon as they can, both to the college and in completing the FAFSA. And then our financial aid and Promise Zone teams can provide consultations to ensure they are getting the full packages available to them. Before I turn it back to Erin and kind of reframe with the questions we asked to consider at the beginning, I do want to thank our teams. This is a tremendous effort to make sense. This is just a sample of the programs available to our students in what I referred to earlier, and it truly is a matrix of funding opportunities available to them. So this takes a team effort with Crystal Morris from our financial aid team and our Student Affairs Associate Provost, Ann Isaacson. Ashley Mishler from our Promise Zone is here somewhere. Thank you, Ashley. As well as several other folks who you heard about in our financial aid and our advancement team. I also want to give a shout out to our Provost Office intern, MJ Harper, who helped prepare some of this information for you today as well. So, Erin.
I just wanted to add that you received a handout that our foundation team created just prior to the start of this meeting. That was created for our foundation board members, but available for everyone, really to just give them a very high-level, quick snapshot of some of the nuances between the state programs and really the end result, why scholarships are still important. I know I've talked about this before, but sometimes we get the questions from donors in our community, why do students need scholarships still? So this is really to try to help with that. So hopefully you find that helpful in the presentation today. And we're happy to take questions.
Just a question around, like, as you talked about the complexity of all of that, and even some of the language, you were like, that's a fancy way to say this, and this is that. And what are the ways that, or are there, if I'm the sample student that you said, do I know all of that, or do I just show up and get a piece of paper that says, hey, this is what you owe? Like, how does that all make its way through to the person on the end in a way that's like manageable?
That's a great question, and it's going to depend. Anne or Crystal, would you like to give a real, time example of that? Do they walk in knowing what Reconnect is the question. Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So the student will receive what we call an offer letter, and it outlines their tuition and fees, cost of attendance, and what they've been awarded. I can't say that we really go into detail of all that we talked about today. We give them general eligibility, but some of it just gets too down into it, and I think it would be more complicating. They just want to know that they have the funds. So that's how but we do make sure everybody gets an offer letter, and that indicates what programs they're eligible for and how it affects their bill.
If I may, I would like to also add that we do FAFSA workshops at all of the area high schools and many community agencies and organizations. And so during those workshops, we can spend time with the families and the students to kind of explain their next steps, explain what things like enrollment intensity and the student aid index mean, and how to figure out what they're going to be eligible for through the FAFSA. FAFSA, also the federal student aid system, has some great information that we share out with students, including short videos to help students and families understand what might be eligible, what their eligibility might be, as well as how to navigate the processes. So we do try very hard to break down those barriers, but it's one student at a time, one family at a time.
Other than the FAFSA, which can be complicated, I was dealing with my own children this year. What are some of the other barriers that you guys are seeing that we as a board or a community can help you with to help get kids to GRCC?
As Dr. Jones stated, all of our students are a little bit different, but barriers that we see that we have a difficult time assisting students with can be things like affordable housing in our area. It can be childcare costs, so those can be barriers for students as they, try to take courses here or do their studies at home. So looking for ways that we can partner with others in the community to help ease those costs and burdens for them is really the best thing that we can do. There are a number of financial aid programs that are available that we didn't even touch on today, both from the federal and the state side. So we try to make sure that students have access to all of the information so that they can be considered for every bit of financial aid possible. But what they run into are barriers that happen with life. right? So the other thing I would say is, we've long had opportunities for emergency funds and, just encouraging people to contribute to our scholarship funds that allow us to provide emergency barrier assistance for students. And that is a great way to help support our students as well, because, life happens. You get into the middle of the semester and, you've had a house fire and you've lost your books, or, your car has broken down. And so those are barriers that we can all help with by contributing to our scholarship funds here at the college.
I'll just reiterate, because great question, is continue helping us dispel that myth that community college students have everything covered. It's clearly not the case. There still are gaps that remain. So again, that handout that we had really helps you have that conversation. So that for us is probably one of the biggest things too. So great question.
Seems like one of the opportunities here is there's competing narratives. There's the narrative of concern that not enough people know about Reconnect and the community college guarantee, and so number one reason why people choose not to go to college is because of cost, and so you're trying to dispel that, and to funders dispel the idea that everything's covered. So you're saying it's covered, and you're saying but it's not all covered, and they're both true, but that feels like a challenge in terms of how we communicate that out to the broader public.
Absolutely. And it resonates differently with everyone too. So yeah, great point.
I apropos that, Aaron, sort of inside baseball, when you go to a donor and they say, I don't want to pay for textbooks and transportation, plus the Rapid's free. What's your response?
Yeah. We do have options to navigate that. We can set up funds specifically for tuition and fees only, similar to these state scholarships. That's not obviously the conversation we jump to. We try to educate on who our students are and things that they struggle with or other resources that they may need. So that's not our first, our first jump, but we do have, we have options for some people. Out of over our 300 different funds, we only have 4 funds that are for tuition and fees only. All of the other funds are for any other educational related expenses. So, yeah.
Sometimes applications can seem overwhelming, and so as I was just kind of seeing it all from the Michigan Reconnect application to the GRCC Foundation application, do you have an idea of the average time that it would take a family to, like, roughly to fill that out, or does that vary depending on the person?
It'll vary probably depending on the person and the application. They're all different lengths. I'm sure we can find out some of that data. I don't have it at the top of my head, but.
In my mind, I was just thinking like, this is not as hard as you thought. Or maybe it is, and they need additional assistance, but that was something that was going through my mind.
With the FAFSA simplification that they did,
That's right.
I can attest it is much quicker, especially if you filled one out last year. You can, if you're an independent student, meaning you don't need your parents to contribute in any way, you can fill it out in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then if you just have to wait for your parent, and I think it still doesn't take maybe more than 10 minutes anymore, 15.
Going a long way.
It's a lot easier.
Wow.
I have a follow-up question on a point about, I didn't catch it correctly, so I want clarification. You don't require FAFSA completion to do the foundation application, is that
That is
correct?
Correct.
But don't you need to unlock the Pell eligibility and federal aid first, because, or scholarship on the same, because the scholarships are not, so the foundation ones are not last dollar?
No,
Okay.
they're not.
Thank
They can
you.
cover, except for those 4 I mentioned, they can
Okay.
cover any tuition fees and other educational related expenses, correct?
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
We ordered it that way in the scenario to show how the aid programs from the state work. But yeah, it wasn't meant to show that our foundation scholarships, it was just in those 2 examples.
Got it. Thank you.
Oh, sure. I wanted to add too, I think we're talking about great ways that we can work with the community on FAFSA completion, and as students graduate high school, or if we're talking about our Reconnect students in the community. I think another opportunity here is talking about college going at younger ages and trying to get that image and think about what you were saying, Trustee Williams, about that, the two narratives that are competing here. I think the earlier we start this, and our team does a great job working with our partners, but I think that's another thing that we'd love your help with when you're in the community too. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming and sharing that information with us. Now I would like to invite John Globoker, Vice President of Finance and Administration, to the podium to present our finance update.
Good afternoon. Great to see everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share today's finance update. Included in your packet is the interim financial statements. Although we're embarking on a new academic year, there is still a reflection back to fiscal year 26. And in the packet is a detailed narrative along with the investment performance and market value report through July 31st. Overall, the college's financial performance for fiscal year 26 remains strong and healthy across all of our primary funds. And that includes the general fund, which finished the year with a $580,000 positive variance, bringing our life-to-date balance to $25.5 million. This represents 18% of our annual revenue, putting us right in the 15 to 20% target range. The designated fund concluded with a nominal shortfall, leaving a life-to-date balance of $7.8 million, which reflects our continued strategic set-asides for enrollment stabilization and other strategic initiatives. The building and site fund ended the year with a $2 million positive balance, bringing the total balance to $67 million. These funds are fully encumbered for critical capital priorities, including the rec center canopy, which is under construction now. It's going to be a great addition to the rec center. The Learning Resource Center, which is excitingly nearing completion toward the end of this calendar year. And then we're looking forward to the start of the College Park Plaza renovation that will begin embarking toward the end of the calendar year and gaining some real momentum into the next calendar year. Deferred maintenance and the eventual replacement of the Student Center. And the parking fund holds a balance of $28 million as we strategically reserve capital for the future replacement of Ramp A. It's important to touch briefly on a few other tax and long-term debt items. Following the Headley rollback, our current millage rate stands at 1.6603 mils into this fiscal year. And it's also important to note our existing debt, we're in great position, scheduled to sunset in 2032. This is important to note that this milestone will significantly strengthen our financial capacity and provide substantial flexibility to fund future capital projects as needed. The college's overall investment portfolio market value stands at $150 million at the end of July 31. And again, this is strategically positioned to support our long-term stability. Finally, I want to share with you that our accounting and budget and services teams are actively closing out fiscal year 26 in close coordination with our external partners and auditors with Plant Moran. The audit is progressing smoothly and on schedule. All requested work papers and trial balance reports have been submitted to the auditors by our team, and the audit team is on site this week for their field work. So we look forward to presenting the final audited report to you later this fall. And thank you for this opportunity, and glad to answer any questions you might have about the finance update.
John, what's our max millage that we are approved for? I know we're at 16603 now. Is it 1.9?
The original?
Yes.
Yeah, 1.9 and a
Okay.
few decimal points to the
Thank
right
you.
of that. Mhm. And as a reflection, if the full Headley rollback was restored, That's roughly to restore about $9 million recurring that we lose as a result of the Headley rollbacks.
Thank you. I actually have another question, unrelated. In the consent agenda or blanket purchase orders, I saw multiple references to SCC4. What is that?
That is a grant,
Okay.
and the acronym, I'm not going to be able to rattle that off. Strengthening community colleges. There's one more C in there.
Okay.
John?
John?
Yes, community knowledge grant round 4.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's on the technology field in partnership with School of STEM.
okay, beautiful, thank you. And that's a federal grant?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Else? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, and that wraps up my president's report.
All right, and I don't believe we have a faculty association report, so none at this time. And on to the board chair report. I don't have a ton to say outside of the board met last week for our annual retreat. And when you think about a retreat, sometimes you think about all these great things that you're doing. At least I do, outdoors and fancy and fun things. But we really sat in the room and just caught up. And I was really excited just to reconnect with everyone. And so excited for the fall and for what that brings. And so just very thankful for all of the updates around things happening around the campus, and not much else to add. So I'll end there. I'll move on to community connections, and Trustee Williams, anything to report out on the communications to the board?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. I wrote notes all over my stuff, and I was like, oh, now I don't know where I'm at. So now we will open up the meeting for public comment. If there is anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding any matter, you may do so at this time. Please come to the podium and state your name. I remind you that all comments are limited to 3 minutes, and the board will not respond to your comments at this time. I don't see anyone rushing the podium, so I'll move forward. And at this point, I'm going to ask trustees if you have any. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. My apologies. Yeah. Come on. Come up front.
I'm nervous. I don't really speak in front of people normally, so forgive me. And I wrote it down so I wouldn't get nervous, but here we are. I'm Marissa Swanson. I began attending as a student and working as a student at GRCC in 2018. I graduated in 2023 with 2 associate degrees, and I've worked here as a part-time APSS ever since. Starting out, I've always worked a second job, and at times I depended on my family and food banks to make it. I did no-buy challenges, where you just don't buy anything except the essentials. Project Pan, where you use up all of your things before buying anything new, on top of the many other frugal measures that I inherited from my working class family, like walking to work, living with my partner, and more recently, living with a roommate. I'm not alone in my struggle to stay at this lovely college. My fellow APSS have had to move into their parents' houses, have had to pick up night shifts at Amazon, have other side gigs and second jobs, like working as an adjunct professor here. My question posed to you is, why does the backbone of GRCC, many of us alumni, have to struggle to stay afloat? You and the students know us. No matter how a living wage is defined, whether that's MIT, the National Low Income Housing Coalition, or through Achieving the Dream, is there not enough value in our labor to pay us enough to live? If we promise our graduating student body a living wage, why do we fall short internally? I hope the heart of what I have said here remains with you as our negotiations team works hard to advocate for our union in the negotiations room. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. a pause and just give anyone else an opportunity to come up. At this point, I'll ask trustees if you have any final board comments that you would like to make.
Really excited about the week of President Rogalski's investiture, about Scholar Fest, about homecoming. I hope that many of us can attend much of this and help elevate the intensity, the electricity around this. It's going to be a great year. We have a tremendous faculty, and I thank you in advance.
Else? With that, I just want to. You're good? I want to thank the trustees, staff, and faculty for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day.